Hello, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of Rediscovered here on the Rediscover the 80s podcast and YouTube channel over here. As you can see, we have backgrounds.
We learned a new trick on Skype that we can actually do this, which is hilarious because I just went out and bought a green screen and found out it was futile. So,
Yeah, I was just messing around with the settings actually before we got on the air, and I was like, oh, I could put a picture up behind me. It doesn't always work as it should, so you can see my hand like disappearing. But for the purpose of it, you can still see the wonderful Camp Candy image, and of course over on Wyatt's screen, he's got it superimposed on an old TV and stereo combo there.
yeah,
Wow.
I kind of took a little fun with the Trapper Keeper
Yeah.
font right here, the little stripe. Excuse me, I couldn't quite get the little soup to work for me.
Uh huh.
Um, but nonetheless, I was looking up for old TV consoles, something that we would recognize from back in the day when
When TV,
it looked like took up half the living room just to watch it.
yeah, when TVs were actually furniture,
That's right.
and it took a truck to haul them. But oh man, this is fun. I'm having a great time already. We haven't even started the show, but
That's it. We've spent quite a bit just playing with this.
yeah, new kids with their toys, essentially. But we appreciate you guys watching and subscribing over here on YouTube and our little pre-show, and of course we have a little after show when we're done recording the podcast. And we're up to our cartoon in the rotation for Rediscovered. We chose Camp Candy, and we're going to tell you all about that. It was obscure as far as trying to find information on the background. There was kind of mixed information between Wiki and IMDb and some of the other sites that I found it on. So we might get a condensed version of like some of the voice actors and everything, because there was a change in there between seasons as it went from broadcast TV to syndication. So it had a fun interaction though on Twitter that we'll tell you about as well with John Candy's daughter. Actually, I was surprised that she responded, but I'll tell you about that coming up too, which was fun. But yeah, Camp Candy, it was just kind of a faint memory for me. I don't know about you the first time around.
It was not a memory. It
Not,
was truly a
don't remember.
discovered. I didn't even rediscover this one. It was a
Okay.
discovered.
So
Yeah.
yeah, being fans of course, John Candy, the movie star,
Yes.
and it was natural to go back and, at least for me, want to rediscover this one. And we did, and we're going to tell you about it in our upcoming podcast. So thank you guys for being here. All right, you ready, Wyatt, with the notes here?
I'm ready. Let's get it cranked up.
Okay, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Rediscover the 80s podcast and episode number 8 of Rediscovered, our journey to review obscure and overlooked TV shows, movies, and cartoons from the 80s. I'm one of your hosts, Jason. With me, as always on this journey, is my bud Wyatt. How you doing, man?
We're good. How are you?
Hanging in there. Crazy times we live in nowadays.
It is, but now they've loosened the reins. At least up here, they've loosened up some of the reins, so things are getting back to semi-normal. I'll call it. I'm back to work, part-time. I'll call it. Hey, it's something.
Yeah, it's all had to adjust to COVID-19, and I actually never left work. It slowed a little bit for me. We've been working 4 days a week for a while. Had our first 5-day week in probably, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months this last week, and just adjusting. It is loosened up a little bit here as well, but still got to be cautious and cautiously optimistic when it comes to trying to get everything back to quote unquote normal, if it ever gets to there.
With that vaccine before we can have something.
Yeah, that's definitely. So I hope everybody is staying safe out there. And if you're shelter in place, if you're still in self-quarantine, we hope we can entertain you a little bit with these podcasts. But we are up to a cartoon show now on episode number 8 of Rediscovered. And we chose Camp Candy, which debuted back in 1989. Now, I don't know. Why did we choose this one, Wyatt? Why do you think? Was it one that you had gone back and watched it all as a kid?
No, this is a true discover, not even a rediscover for me. This is I liked. I think we aimed on it because we liked John Candy, the actor, especially the
Mm-hmm.
movie actor. We can count the movies that we've watched with, his hilarity, his comedy that he does. Our most, at least for me, the most notable one is, geez, the
Armed
Armed
and
and
Dangerous.
Dangerous, where he's just, it's comedy, but he's trying to be serious throughout the whole thing. But it's his comedy as well, and it was a blast watching it. But we see him in Plane, Trains, Automobiles, and so forth. Uncle Buck with the
Oh,
the booming car. I love that part where
yeah.
he clock clock clock. Boom. Um, but I think that's why we really kind of zeroed in on this because we liked John Candy,
Yeah.
and we found ourselves kind of fond of him and his acting. I think that's why we liked it. Um, I'll
Yeah.
leave it there for that because you might not like the rest of this episode.
Well, I do remember watching it faintly. I mean, I had faint memories of watching it in its original run, but basically all I knew was it was John Candy and they were at a camp. So then you can deduce that from the title. But I wanted to dig a little bit further, go back and find these episodes and watch. It was 3 seasons, so we didn't end up watching the whole entire series for this review, but we're going to give you our impressions of some of the episodes that we did watch and encourage you to go out and watch them as well. We'll tell you all about where you can find them and a little bit of the background and everything coming up. But why don't you go ahead and introduce our uh, the show here in its original run and everything?
So it debuted
Why?
in September 9th of 1989 or at the 8:30 a.m. slot on Saturday mornings. It ran for 13 episodes through December 16th. It was sandwiched in between Alf Tales, which I don't remember actually watching the Alf cartoons, at 8 a.m., and Captain N, the Game Master. I do remember that guy, at 9. Season 2 ran for 14 episodes in the fall of 1990 at the same time slot. And then season 3 ran 13 episodes in syndication. Direct competition was Muppet Babies on CBS. Well, that might be why I didn't watch Camp Candy because I liked my Muppet Babies back in the day.
And I was on ABC for Gummy Bears.
I didn't pick up ABC, so gummy bears were a what? What? There was a gummy
Yeah.
bear?
But that was stiff competition, man. I mean, Muppet Babies ran for years. That was
It
a very
did. I
popular
loved it.
show.
I don't know why, but I loved it.
Oh, I liked it too. And Gummy Bears, when that hit, just the theme song and all the adventure style episodes and everything. I went back and watched it. I know you have it on Disney Plus probably as well. Don't know if you've kind of gone back and watched any episodes, but man, such a great show. So I'm surprised Camp Candy lasted 2 seasons in that time slot.
Right, right.
So that was pretty interesting there. You want to keep going?
Okay. It was created by Deke, which is famous for Pole Position, Mask, Inspector Gadget, Alf Tales, Captain N, Heathcliff, H Rock and Wrestling, Hulk
Hulk
Hogan,
Hogan.
sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
Cops, and the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. I love that show too. Most of
And
these
many
I
more.
liked. I
Yeah.
watched all of these except Alf Tales. I don't know how I missed Alf Tales. And I'm a big fan of Alf, so whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
Alf. I don't know if Alf had two shows or if it was the same one that I remember, but it was had this like doo wop theme to it. I remember watching some episodes. It was on Melmac, and I don't know. That might be one we need to put in the in
the
the
slot,
queue, even though it was. I know it was several seasons, but
right.
yeah.
But anyway, the experience, uh, like I said, I have no recollection of Camp Candy, so this is truly a discovered for me. And I've
Hmm.
already mentioned that I would like to go back and watch Alf Tales. I'm a big fan of Alf. I do remember watching Captain N, vaguely, just a few episodes, not too many.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, Muppet Babies, yeah, that was the one thing. I don't know why, but I don't remember it on a Saturday. I remember on a weekday for some reason, but I could
Oh,
be
really?
wrong. Maybe it was a rerun on Nickelodeon or something.
Yeah. Captain N kind of annoyed me because of Mother Brain. Mother Brain had that huge voice and just,
Yes.
I don't know. It was like nails on a chalkboard to me hearing Mother Brain's voice. But I do remember Captain N, and I think it was the second or third season of that. They brought in Game Boy, and
Mm-hmm.
that Game Boy was voiced by Frank Welker, actually. Um, and that was kind of an annoying character to me as well. So didn't watch too much Captain N. It was more or less if I was visiting somebody staying over and they were into it. So we'll get into the development now. The series was created by three people. At least that's what Wikipedia and IMDb tells us. Joel Andreich, who is known mainly for his work on Power Rangers shows. He was the executive producer on the recent movie, actually, and co-produced a couple Power Rangers series in the 90s. Ellen Levy Sarnoff, she was a co-producer on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TV show. She created two kids game shows that I remember one pretty vividly. I'm Telling, which was a Saturday morning show, and I think it had like a brother sister combination teams. And the only thing I remember about it is the end game where they had this like platform of prizes, and
Hmm.
they had a whirlybird light at each prize. And the trick was the sister would pick for the brother. All right, what does my brother want out of these? I think it was like 10 prizes, maybe. And you chose, actually, no, it might have been like seven, and you had to choose five, and you're trying to get like 10 matches or something. Anyway, I don't remember the exact thing, but you'd walk through oh, yeah, my brother wants the basketball hoop, and you'd hit the thing. And if the whirly bird light lit up, you got a match. And then you just kind of choose around. Do you remember that show at all? I'm Telling.
No, not at all.
And then the other one was called Couch Potatoes. Very short lived, hosted by Mark Summers of Double Dare fame. Don't remember that show at all. Do you remember Couch Potatoes?
No, Nickelodeon. I think if this is around that era, this is when we had just moved out to Eden, and our satellite dish, the package we had didn't have Nickelodeon. So no Nick for me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that was a Nickelodeon show or not, but I have to go back and look at some episodes because that didn't ring a bell for me. Ellen Sarnoff also created the Little Shop cartoon, which was the adaptation of the Little Shop of Horrors movie on Saturday mornings. I think that was short lived, maybe a season or two. And then she was also the creative consultant for Captain N, the Game Master, to name a few of her credits. And then Phil Harnage actually had 59 credits on IMDb for writing a few episodes here and there of several shows, including He-Man and She-Ra, Alf Tales, Super Mario Brothers, Zelda, Bill and Ted, Where's Waldo, season 2 of G.I. Joe. He would write a handful of episodes for several of those. And then he also has some creative and adapting credits for the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog uh, animated show, Captain Planet, Double Dragon, and Street Sharks, to name a couple of those. So, very much the creators of the show had a knack for kids programming and animation, all of that. So I was kind of wondering how did the show get developed? How did John Candy get involved? Was he the driving force behind it? Really couldn't get any information, didn't see any information out there. And that's why I just simply, well, I knew that his daughter was on Twitter, Jennifer Candy. I'll take a shot in the dark. And I tweeted her a question. I said, is there any information on the web about the development of Camp Candy beyond what Wikipedia has to offer? And we're planning to cover, the show on an upcoming podcast. And she did reply. She said, "It's slim pickings, it seems. It was a passion project. He loved the cottage and lake at Muskoka, and it was the thing to do in the time for actors to do cartoons, like Bobby's World. Bobby was Howie Mandel. He was the voice behind Bobby's World, and I think some other actors at the time went into some animation, but yeah, I didn't really get too much of an answer on, hey, they wanted John to do a cartoon or he wanted to do the show himself. Didn't really get any answers behind that. But nonetheless, I was very grateful that she responded and gave us some insight into the show.
Great. She said it's a passion project, so that tells me that at least he had a big interest into it. I don't know if he was the creator, but maybe someone came to him about, hey, do you want to do a cartoon? Everybody else is. Why don't you? And,
right.
Hey,
right.
We should do a camp style thing like this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure he was. Yeah, I'm sure he was in the development process at some point, and if she's saying it was a passion project and he loved going out to the lake, spending time at this lake, then it must have been something that he kind of came up with in his mind as well, and they expanded on it. So that's at least what I would like to think. Just a couple other notes here behind the development of the show. One of the writers, Betty Burney, won a Humanitas Prize Award in 1991 for Camp Candy. Really the only thing that it was ever nominated for. And these awards are for writing intended to promote human dignity, meaning, and freedom. And it's kind of like the Nobel Peace Prize Award for television, essentially, is what I was reading about it. And it was for Camp Candy episodes were split in half generally for the first two seasons. And this was one half of the first episode in the second season, called the Glasnost Menagerie. And we'll talk about it a little bit. I did watch that episode just kind of in preparation for it to see what all the hubbub was about. But there was several voice directors too, basically one for each season of the show. Scott Shaw was the voice director for season 1. He also directed the Ed Grimley animated series for Martin Short. There's one of those where the comedian did a short run in the animation.
That's the name I've been trying to picture. Sorry, big rubber, or just a small rubber, bunny trail. My daughter has this one little tuft of hair, but it's a fair. And I have been trying. I've been racking my brains who that is, because he had that pointy, almost a triangle thing, and I have tried going. I've seen this guy. I know I'm not making it up.
Yeah. Ed Grimley. I think his catchphrase was, "I must say." Anyway, back to Scott Shaw. He won 4 Emmys for his directing and storyboard artwork for Muppet Babies, and worked on dozens of other cartoons in the 80s. And for nearly 10 years, Shaw was the senior art director at Ogilvy and Mather in Los Angeles, where he co-wrote, co-directed, storyboarded, and designed hundreds of animated television commercials for Post Fruity and Cocoa Pebbles cereal. So that is your voice director doing all those Fred and Barney commercials for Pebbles, straight out of the Flintstones there. So that was neat to have that kind of history behind there. Also a big into comic books as far as artistry and stuff. Dan Thompson was the voice director for season 2. His directing and animation career includes The Rugrats, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Incredible Hulk, and Tiny Toon Adventures. Pretty good pedigree there. And then Winston Richard was the voice director for season 3, and he has mainly producing credits in his career: Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, X-Men the animated series, and Little Shop. So there's a little background into some of the people behind the scenes of Camp Candy, and pretty good pedigree there, I would say, as far as surrounding yourself with some people in the industry that you know, it was pushed towards hopefully a successful run for John Candy. But 3 seasons I thought was actually pretty pretty amazing, considering what we got. But I'll throw it back over to you for the broadcast and home video history here that I wrote down.
Right, right now, like we said, we have 3 seasons. First was the fall of 1989 for 13 episodes. Second, fall of 1990 for 14 episodes, and third season was syndicated in 1992. 3-episode bundles were released to VHS by Video Treasures and Saban Entertainment in 1993, including the titles Christmas, Planetary Adventure, and Comedy Capers. Unfortunately, we never did get an official DVD release, but it's streaming on YouTube, and we were happy to put a link on there. I found a playlist, but as I learned, it's not in any order. It's basically just thrown in as we went. So I have no idea what season I was on. I would say the first 3 that I watched were probably season 1. After that, I don't think it was season 1.
Yeah, there was. I was trying to look back and forth between Wikipedia that has the list of episodes for each season, and was trying to go in order, at least to start with, and then once I learned that it was switched up a little bit in season 3, where there was actually some live action segments with John Candy, kind of in the vein of Mr. T. If you remember the Mr. T cartoon, he would do little live action segments talking about the show, get into the show, and then have a little wrap up at the end. And season 3, I did find at least 2 episodes on YouTube where you get the live action segments with John at the beginning and at the end. So, and that was one larger episode, not necessarily split up for those season 3 episodes. But you can kind of go back and forth, but you're right. There's no really rhyme or reason on YouTube. They don't name the season and episode numbers or anything like that. But yeah, we're going to just to touch on the merchandise that I was able to dig up. It was pretty scarce. I did find they released some Camp Candy jigsaw puzzles back in the day that were, kids size. I think maybe 60 pieces was in those, but there was several different images there. Did see a Camp Candy lunchbox, the old plastic lunchbox with the thermos. That was pretty cool, and an iron-on patch. Remember those? Remember
yes.
them? Those were big back in the day. Just get a patch. Sometimes you get them in like cereal boxes and stuff, and get your mom to iron it on your, jacket or t-shirt or whatever you wanted to do. But that's really all I could find as far as the merchandise. There might be more out there, but didn't really do a lot of investigating to find that. I do, and this was part of what I've had in the back of my mind over the years, at least over the last few years, is I was able to get my hands on some of the comic books. There was a short run of 6 issues published from May to October in 1990 by Marvel, actually. And it wasn't, this was past their Star Comics era. Marvel had this Star Comics brand that was for basically licensed kids-centered comics. I believe, I want to say the Thundercats run was under Star Comics, maybe Masters of the Universe. I can't remember all the different brands, but it was things like that. But this was actually past that, and it's actually branded Marvel on the comics. I've got, I think about 3 or 4 of the 6 issues. I need to complete that actually, just so I have the whole set. But I thought that was interesting that they pushed it at least through the comics world for 6 months. And I haven't gone back to look and see if they are actually like episodes that they adapted. I'd be curious to find out. So I might do that a little bit after the fact here, and I can let y'all know. But yeah, that was basically it for the merchandise. Wasn't really heavily pushed in the stores to, which is surprising over 2 seasons that they didn't do. Once you get popular on Saturday morning, or at least are on Saturday morning, there should be more stuff out there to kind of push you to watch, but didn't seem like there was too much there. But let's go ahead and get into the show, and we'll talk about kind of the overall synopsis of the episodes.
Right. So the setting was really just the adventures of a camp counselor who happened to be John Candy, who ran the fictitious Camp Candy summer camp. We'll call it the episode formula. Like Jason said earlier, that most of the episodes were split. So you got a 15-minute, or probably less than that, like a 13 and a 13 episode. So it was 2 and 1, kind of like the Heathcliff and the Rugrats or whatever they were called, Cadillac Cats.
Cadillac Cats, yep.
So anyway, so they almost all the seasons begin with John Candy trying to show an outdoor skill to the campers, which would then remind him of a story, and then he would just relive it during the entire episode in narration. In season 2, live action segments were added, like Jason said earlier, with John talking about nature and ecology.
Actually, season 3. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my apologies.
I meant to change that, but yeah, and those segments too. It seemed like he had filmed them like all in one swoop because he's wearing the same outfit, same jacket, and maybe that was intentional to. Well, I guess he was wearing more of a. I guess it was more than a t-shirt than what he was wearing. It was more of like a cargo shirt, but he must have just kind of filmed them all together and they spliced it in, for each episode of what they were talking about. But yeah, season 3 is where those live action segments started.
And then we move on to our characters and voice actors.
Yeah, and like I said, when it went into syndication, the voice actors changed. So there was basically a voice actor for the first 2 seasons and then another one for the 3rd season. And there was a few that were, I would say, notable. Nobody that really, I think, would jump out to us, Wyatt, as far as being one of the top voice actors of the 80s. One that did take over in season 3 was E.G. Daily, and she's the voice of Tommy Pickles in the Rugrats, Powerpuff Girls. She does a lot of different voices, but she's been up mainly I would say more in the 90s and 2000s as one of the more well-known voice actors. But more of the additional voice casters you'll see here: Gary Chalk, Pat Fraley. See who else is in here. There's actually Eugene Levy, who is John Candy's partner in Armed and Dangerous. Lent his voice in season 3 just as more of an additional voice, is not necessarily a character. But one interesting note too is John's kids, Jennifer and Christopher, lent their voice to some episodes. I tried to ask her, actually. I did a follow-up question. Do you remember anything about the characters you played or any of that experience? And she didn't respond. But he brought in his kids to get involved with the show as well. So not really, anybody that would stand out to us that we've been talking about right away on these shows. But let's get into the characters a little bit. We'll talk about the kids that were in the episodes and the villain, we'll say, that popped up every once in a while. So there was Robin Mchale was one of the kids. She was the nature-loving African-American girl in the show. Do we just run through these, or do you want to go back and forth?
We could go back and forth. Alexandria Dawson, who played a redheaded tomboy girl.
Yep, known as Alex. Then you had Vanessa Carter. She was the rich valley girl and like snobbish fashionista, you would say, during the show.
Then we have E.G. Jarvis, who was a
he wore glasses.
Okay, yeah. Holy cow!
I pulled these from Wikipedia, so my vocabulary is not that.
Kid that wears glasses, but he's also a hypochondriac.
Yeah, And then Iggy's more adventurous younger brother is the who crap? What was his name?
Yeah, I can place him, but I can't think of his name.
Gregory. Yeah, Gregory. So it's Gregory Jarvis. He is the more adventurous younger brother and the youngest member of the gang.
Then we have Rick Rogers, who is an amateur but a talented prankster.
And then Theodore, who is the chubby blonde kid, we'll say.
Then we have Nurse Molly, who seems to have an infatuation with John throughout the
That's
entire
right.
episodes.
Yep. And then the main bad guy that will pop in once in a while is Xavier the Forest the Third, and his right hand man here.
And then we have Chester, who is the right hand man.
Right, Chester and Xavier. And as we kind of transition into the show, and as far as watching episodes and stuff, the Xavier DeForest character and that and his involvement, he's always trying to shut down the camp or find a way to mess with the camp and mess with John. It reminded me a little bit of Ernest Goes to Camp and the whole premise and plot of that, where you've got the guy trying to shut him down, trying to get the land back, and it had that feel as I'm watching the show. I was like, oh, this is like a animated Ernest Goes to Camp almost.
I saw that several times.
Yeah, but it was much more than that too, because they didn't always have him in every episode. He was brought in, and more of them were just the stories that John was telling too. Going back to the award-winning episode where where the writer won that award for what the crap was it? Trying to find it here. Won the Humanitas Prize Award. The episode, I don't know if did you get a chance to watch it?
I watched most of it, and it looked a lot better than what the episodes I've seen before. It was I call it assembled a lot better than the other episodes.
Yeah, it was. They were all kind of preparing for this foreign exchange student to come. This little girl from Russia, and she comes and basically whips them all into shape. And she's getting up at the crack of dawn, doing jumping jacks and going for swims, and just running laps around the other campers there. And the tomboy, the red-haired girl, Alex, she is a little bit jealous of her. She's getting the attention, and she's the tomboy. She's the one that kind of takes charge around there when something needs to happen. So she's kind of, this exchange student is kind of invading her territory. But I could see why that it's won the award, for foreign exchange and what do I want to say? The environment of accepting somebody, into your, friendship and camp and that sort of thing. International, there's all kinds of immigrants and everything throughout our country. Our country was built on immigration. So I think that's why it was nominated and actually won the award. So yeah, I thought it was a fun episode. Compared, was there any other? I mean, what was your overall take, I guess, of when you started watching episodes? What was your take on it?
Well, I think they're going to lean into our likes and dislikes, but the overall feel of it was just like John narrating his adventures of the camp, and it was always with those kids. It seemed like they were the same kids. It wasn't like another group. It was more like, hey, do you remember, Johnny, when we did this, this, and this? Yeah, that was that episode. That's the take on it. I guess, annoying part was that it felt like it was supposedly like last year's camp. I don't know. It seemed like it was just distant enough
Right.
That, I remember when, like, I do, and probably you do too. I remember this song back in 1986. Jeff Fresh Prince, and our kids are rolling their eyes already, going, "Who's that? What?" Um, my wife does that to me. Um, but that's how I took most of these episodes, as just exactly that. Just him reminiscing, but something triggers that memory, which is me. It's funny. I do the same thing, but it's annoying when I'm watching the cartoon. But he's, hey, I remember this, and it sparked a whole, obviously, an episode.
Yeah.
How about
Um,
you? What was your take on the show?
yeah, I mean, it was. I think the good parts about it was it had enough flavor that when you're watching episode to episode, it's not always. It does have a formula, but it's not always the same uh, point A to point B, because he'll be messing around camp, and then there'll be the episodes where he does trigger a memory and he'll tell a story. Sometimes it's more of a ghost story, or one of the earlier ones. It might have been even the first or second episode where the trees come to life
Yeah.
that he's telling. It's more of like a ghost story. I thought that was really fun. And then so he gathers the campers around and to tell them the story, and they're kind of asking questions as the story is going along too, and he might be embellishing a little bit. But the campers' personalities don't always necessarily translate or come out, because it's just like a memory. It's like he's just telling a story about a memory of a couple years ago or several years ago at the camp, and telling the campers that are currently there. And then you've got other episodes where you get the actual personalities of the kids coming out. I was watching one of them where John is like telling them to do a bunch of chores around camp, and the rich girl goes out and buys this robot camper.
Yep.
And did you see that one?
I did.
And he's basically trying to assist them, and how things are much better with the robot that can do all this work and fix everything up, make it nice and modern. And then it goes haywire. I think John actually tries to shut it off, and he gets short circuited, and it goes crazy. But you get to see the personality of all the kids there. The kid with the glasses kind of worrying about what it's going to do, and the tomboy girl, she's like, well, we got all this other, what was it, made out of plastic or metal or something, that he built all those or reinforced all of the buildings out of. And I missed the wood. I missed the ruggedness of it, and John was, afraid that the robot might replace him or something, So you had those kind of episodes where more of the kids' personality came out, which I think I enjoyed better. But it just seemed like there was no. Well, we did talk about the formula, but like I said, there's different ways that they ran the show. In other words, and it wasn't a lot of cohesion, even in the middle of the episodes when you got the split episodes. Some was that way where you're telling the story, and then some was just something happening at camp.
Right.
And one thing I was hoping to see more of too was more of John's personality. I guess you get some of that in there. He is kind of bumbling, like you said. He's always ending up at the nurse station there, and she's always patching him up with happenings around camp and stuff. And I guess that kind of plays towards John.
A little bit. It was not the character we're familiar with, the true comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
Great outdoors. Heck, it was not even great outdoors. It was,
Oh no, yeah, it was. Don't even go there. But yeah, that's where I was hoping he would shine a little bit more through. And there were sometimes when I was watching episodes where you would get that little John laugh, like that, almost like John Candy laugh.
Right.
And that came through a little bit. And so I was hearing a little bit of kind of what we know in his comedy style. But I don't know if this really was the right venue for him to really uh, break out or what do I want to say?
Carry on, because
Carry
I don't.
on his comedy, because it just didn't seem to translate well through an animated character to me.
Now, like you said, I was anticipating, again, it's a cartoon. I guess I was hoping it'd be something like The Great Outdoors. I saw a lot of the Ernest Goes to Camp style with it, um, but it was like he was either not engaged with the writers, or the writers had no clue, or not, or wanted to completely do a different character with John
Mm-hmm.
as the counselor. He's the kind of the fumbler, but in the end, he gets it right. Um, Not completely losing his mind like he would on uh, Plane, Trains, Automobiles or another movie,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, he's just, I don't know. It felt like he was out of character, if that's the right word, to be playing this character, this
Mm-hmm.
cartoon character.
You know, I was thinking some too. I can't remember which episode it was I was watching. Um, the traditional style that we're watching John through the movies is a 90-minute, essentially 90-minute story.
Right.
And I think the it might have been a little bit better if you went a full 22 minutes with the story versus those half episodes too. So you're getting real quick little stories and anecdotes from John instead of the adventures and putting him in situations where it kind of has more time to play out. And I think that was part of it too, was just that real short episode nature of cartoons in general. But even when you're splitting a half-hour episode in two, it's hard for the payoff to come in the same time frame as when you're watching him on movies, you know.
Right.
Um, but that's kind of what went through my mind too, watching these episodes. Any other little things maybe you liked or disliked about watching the show?
The I only watched about a half dozen episodes. I struggled with this, to be honest. I it was, I won't say painful, but it was pretty darn close to watch some of these episodes. I don't know that the writers had the ability to make a connection, or maybe it's, I'm a 44-year-old that has never watched this and now trying to watch it,
Yeah,
and it's not, I'm not sinking to that. Uh, I'm
yeah,
not sinking below. Not, I'm not connecting with this episodes or this series just right. And the only one that I kind of had some fun with was I think it was the Halloween. I want to say it was for season one, because seemed like it was a fuller episode, and they're driving the one kid with glasses just paranoid. He thinks, he sees what, John is just wearing something. They're trying to do a surprise birthday around Halloween masks and all that, and the kid
hmm
is already like seeing everything, but he's seeing like the monster's house. He's seeing uh just the true Dracula. I mean, he's seeing it all in life, and he's about ready to pass out several times. The I felt bad for the kid, of all things. I felt bad because the kid's like, I can't go anywhere.
yeah,
Uh, the comedy in the whole thing was he kept interrupting the chess game between the what was it, the cougar and the bear and something else. So that I found comedy, because they were trying to play a freaking game, which is obviously it's something that's not supposed to happen anyway. Um, but they keep moving and moving and moving. It doesn't matter where they go. They're always getting their game messed up.
yeah.
Um, that was probably my favorite, and that was not all that much better than the rest of them. I like John's character because he's trying to be the voice of reason despite his bumbling. Um, that was really about it. The kids were kind of, it was hard to pinpoint them. I realize you got the excuse me, the rich little girl, um, the kind of the tomboy girl that you had there. They didn't seem to have the same adhesive character traits that should have been there. If they're going to stay there, keep that
Mm-hmm.
um, character. Like, I'm pointing at Mask for now, but Matt is the level-headed leader. He usually knows the answer to every, except this last episode we did. He knows the answer to every question, no matter what you think. You know what Miles is like. He's after the gold. He's after money, and you got to get out of his way or do what he says. That kind of attitude, and they just weren't the right characters every time. So it was hard. Like I said, it's hard for me to connect with this show and then find it entertaining as well. So, like I said, I struggled with this whole Camp Candy. And how about you? Hopefully, you have something better than I do.
Well, I thought it was good, the variety of kids in their background that they at least attempted to pull off was good for the time, and the level of kind of what do I want to say? Like, just the level of the knowledge of the environment, or even bringing up ways to help the environment, was kind of surprising to me. I think of that more as a, I guess, more modern movement where, the recycling programs and just, trying to recognize nature and how best to, keep it the way it is. And a lot of that came up during the show of, especially the one little girl that was just kind of in tune with, making sure you recycle stuff and you're paying attention to the environment.
That was a nuance, and especially for us back in rural Pennsylvania, recycling was a very seldom heard of anything except maybe aluminum cans.
Right.
We didn't do much of recycling, so it was very nuanced, at least in our neck of the woods. And I'm sure it wasn't that big of abundance like it is nowadays.
Yeah.
Where they give you recycled cans and trash. We buy the trash cans. They give us the recycling cans, which doesn't make sense. But there's a true, and it's single stream. You put everything in the can versus, okay, this bag's for this bag is for that. So I applaud them for that, because I think of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I was that was. Like I said, it was surprising the amount and level that they were trying to teach kids that were watching the show, which I thought was pretty interesting and good for the time, that they were trying to invoke that on the young minds that are watching the show. But just I can see where you're coming from, just bouncing off what we said earlier. If it was a true spook story, and or if they had more of a, okay, so we're gonna do something with the kids first, and then we're gonna have a time at the end of the day where they build the campfire and John tells a story or something, and have more of a formulaic episode where this is what you're going to get each time, and jumping all over the place, bringing in the dude that wants to take over Camp Candy and mess with them and his right hand man, and just the episodes where he was telling story, just where something would happen, and they would have to essentially solve a problem before the end of the episode. It was bouncing all over the place, even from season to season too. So maybe they were just trying to test some things out and see what the best formula was, and before things got cut off. But for a 13 episode season, you would think okay, this is what we're going to do for the first season, and we're going to boom. And it just seemed like they were trying to bounce ideas or try new things throughout even the first season, that like the show was almost doomed from the beginning. That's why I was surprised it actually went 3 seasons. But anyway, for what it was worth, I mean, it was fun to check out and to understand the show. Try to get a concept of what they were pulling off. We didn't mention the music. The intro music for the show was more of which we always, everybody has that camp experience as a kid, and you'd always sing songs around the campfire, and you've got, On Top of Old Smoky and all these other songs that you always sung at camp. And I think that's kind of what they were going for with the intro, and with John actually singing the intro music. That was a little hard to stomach, though. After a few, John was not a singer. And they over the closing credits, it got a little bit better, but that was off to like kind of a sour note to start the show as well. So yeah, it was just I was wishing it would have came together a little bit more as I was watching it, but I think like you, I just got kind of deflated after watching. I don't know how many episodes I watched, maybe 8 or 10. And I was like, okay, I've experienced it and I'm done.
I was trying to go for 5, and I'm like, well, at least make a half a dozen. And that 6th one, I'm going.
Yeah,
Jason, I don't know if we can even do this podcast.
So I guess as our final verdict here, we've already kind of hinted at it, but I'm guessing you wanting to leave this one in the past instead of.
I hate to say it, but this because I like my 80s stuff or even stuff, but this is, yeah, leave it in the past. Let it be where it is.
And I'm gonna put my vote that way as well. It would be fun if you want to just go out and check out an episode. I would recommend just go out and see what it was like if you never caught it back in the day. But I would guess you're not going to get past a few episodes before you'll see some of the nuances that we talked about, and just how it's hard to just watch, full seasons of it, like some of the other shows that we really like. So unfortunately, Camp Candy was a little bit of a downer. Haven't had too many in this run, Wyatt, on Rediscovered. That movie that we that we did with David Hasselhoff, that was a little rough. I think that might be the other one that we've left in the past. But I think we are back around to a movie next time, right?
We are. So we do have a list, and like we joke about in these episodes, we will talk probably offline to figure out if there's even anything that's accessible to watch. That's the cliffhanger we'll give you for these episodes.
Yeah. So we've got we've gone through the lists before, so we won't go through it again. But it's just kind of what jumps out at us at the time, and if it's available on those streaming services like Amazon or Tubi or Hulu. I've actually dropped Netflix, so that one's out for me.
We're about ready to drop that. It's all just Netflix stuff anymore. There's not much like independent, or I say independent, everything else,
Yeah. Well, everything is aligning. I mean, we've gone from streaming services that offer a wide variety of shows across multiple production companies and platforms to now everybody wants their own thing. So it's almost like we're back around to cable again. And to get your NBC shows, you're going to have to get the Peacock app. And to get your CBS shows, you need the CBS app. And I mean, it's just, how it is with all the streaming services nowadays. So we've kind of come almost full circle, which kind of sucks. Most of them, I'll say, has a free option, but there's still some like Netflix that don't have a free option. So we'll see how it goes and what we can dig up for the next episode of Rediscovered. So, Movie time.
That's it.
Anxious to get through a movie. Usually those go a little bit quicker as far as watching and note taking and getting it back up. So hopefully before too long here, we can get you the next Rediscovered up. But we do appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. We appreciate our YouTube watchers as well as we throw up our recording sessions over there, and you get to see our wonderful Camp Candy backgrounds and your wonderful television set there that has the Camp Candy picture on it. This has been fun messing with the backgrounds. So check us out on YouTube if you're not if you're getting the podcast version of this. You can always check us out over there as well. So it was fun, man. I know it was kind of a downer show, but it's always fun to go back and watch these offerings.
That's why we gave it really just a two. Basically 2 points. You like it or you don't, and it's not like our mass cast where it's 1 to 5 and whatever scale. This is a pretty hard stop. Yeah, hey, go rediscover. Yeah, or nope. You just leave it right back there in 1989 where it was.
All right. Well, we will let you know what's coming up in the next episode here before too long. Yep. And again, thank you guys for watching and listening to us, and we will catch you next time on Rediscovered. All right, and we're out. And thank you, everybody watching over here on YouTube. And we'll get a chance to do a fun new background next time. I like this.
Yeah, this was actually fun.
We'll fool around with it some more and just well, I'm covering up my man wall though. That's the only problem. But I don't know. I think this looks better when you can actually see something that pertains to what we're talking about. So this was fun, man.
Oh yeah, this was a blast. I was trying to do something unique with the green screen, but now that, again, since we don't need a green screen, so my son has been loving it. He's done this math prodigy, and now he's going on to Roblox. He runs about a 20 to 30 minute clip, and he's just playing the game, and he's talking. I have him actually with my mic, and he has the big clunky headset now. He just sits there. The other day he did it by himself.
That's fun.
Record. I usually sit. It's hilarious. I sit right down here. I don't know how I do it. I sit. Oh, it doesn't even show because of the background.
Yeah.
There's like maybe a foot of seat on the floor, so I stay below to make sure he's okay and everything's set up and all that. This last time, like you said, he's like, "Can I just go do it?" I said, "Make sure it's around 20 minutes and you can do it." I say that because if it goes any longer, the video starts getting blotchy, so it starts getting not nice and fluid. So, but yeah.
Well, you never know. Maybe in a couple years he'll be the major breadwinner there in the house.
He might. That'd be awesome.
I guess you can't monetize kids' videos.
This one you can't. I get it, but I don't.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll have to check that out. Now I'm curious to see see how it does. But my son Jameson is he was talking to me yesterday. Dad, how many subscribers you got on YouTube? And I want to do some gaming videos on YouTube and play with my friends and all this stuff. And so
it can be done. It's not that hard. After doing this, it was not that hard. It's just that your computer has to be able to do all that. And I'm using this OBS Studio, and it's supposed to be, I think, more RAM, not hardware friendly. More hardware friendly, not, and it's more sitting in the RAM, not the actual hard drive. But all that is just jiving and connecting, and as you get longer, when we get to the 30-minute lengths, then you see he's really not as fluid. But he's like, I want to get it up there anyway. Okay.
Well, my son Jameson, you can basically screen cap your games right on Xbox. So, and you can send it to your wherever you need to, YouTube, whatever. And he's talking about editors, and I got a little editor on my phone that I use for some of the videos right here in the feed, and you can do it that way as well. Don't necessarily need a laptop, but anyway, interesting world we live in now.
It
that
is.
the kids are taking over our audiovisual.
They are. Back in the day, we were the computer nerds and stuff compared to our parents. And,
Yeah. Yeah, but we were, all we had was like Viewmasters and those little Disney projectors, and that was, we couldn't really create our own stuff without buying, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars of camcorders, equipment, and, trying to come up with something they can do in just a heartbeat now and without almost even thinking about. So anyway, just the time we live in, but we'll go for now.
Yep.
Get you off our kids. We'll have to put links to their YouTube channels in our show notes going forward. Now, anyway, we appreciate everybody watching over here on YouTube, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah.